皆さんこんにちは。ご紹介いただきました日本維新の会代表の馬場伸幸でございます。ただいまご紹介の中にあったかと思いますが、政治家の中では数少ない嘘をつかない政治家でございます。ぜひ本日もよろしくお願いを申し上げたいと思います。
So hello everybody, as introduced, I am the representative of the Japan Innovation Party, or Ishin no Kai. My name is Baba Nobuyuki. As was mentioned in the brief introduction, I am perhaps one of the few politicians in Japan who does not lie, and so I'm very glad to have the chance to speak with you today. Thank you.
現在ご案内のように衆議院選挙が行われておりまして、いよいよ3日後日曜日が投票日ということで、投開票日ということでございます。
So as you are aware, we are now in the period of the election of the House of Representatives, and it will be on Sunday in just 3 days when this election will be taking place.
今回の選挙の争点でありますが、いろいろ言われておりますが、この政治とお金の問題はですね、私が演説会や街頭で申し上げているのは、この問題はそもそも自民党が起こした不祥事事件であるということです。
And so in this election, there are various different issues which are the focus, of course, and which are being mentioned. However, at the center of this, one of these is the issue of politics and money. This is something which I've been focusing on in my various talks and campaigning towards this election. And this is, of course, a scandal or an incident which was caused by the LDP.
したがって本来ならば自民党が自ら原因の究明をし、そして再発防止策を自ら打ち出してくるというのが本筋だと考えています。
And of course, it should be the case that the LDP themselves seek to investigate the causes of this incident, what caused this to arise, and also take measures to prevent reoccurrence of such an issue in the future. This is how things should be.
しかしながら皆さん方もお分かりのように、なかなか自民党のこの再生といいますか、この政治とお金の問題に対する反省というものはなかなか見えてきません。
However, as you are no doubt aware, looking at the different changes or renewal within the LDP in regards to the problem of politics and money, and the regret or reflection upon these problems is something which is not occurring.
加えてですね、一昨日ですかの報道によりますと、この非公認、お金の問題を起こして今回の選挙で非公認になっている候補者がその支部長を務めている支部にですね、この政党助成金を2000万円振り込んでいたということが発覚いたしております。
And as you also saw, no doubt, additionally in the reporting of for yesterday, there was the news that one of the candidates, who is not an official candidate of the LDP in this election due to their involvement in the politics and money scandal, actually received political subsidies of 20 million yen given to the division of the LDP of which they are the head.
このこと自体がこの言語道断でありますし、この政治とお金の問題について自民党がどういうふうに考えているのかということが端的に分かる事象だというふうに思います。
And I think this illustrates very clearly and simply what kind of stance or thinking the LDP has in regards to this issue of politics and money in this scandal, and what they are or are not doing in regards to this.
このことに見られるように、石破総理はですね、総裁になられる前、また総裁選挙中に圧倒的な国民また党員の人気を得ていました。
As was seen during or in the lead up to the presidential election within the LDP, and also in the time of the election itself, current Prime Minister Ishiba had overwhelming support both from the party members and the public at the time.
しかしながら総理に就任された途端にですね、前言を撤回し、手のひらを返すというようなことで、私は今このお金の問題だけではなしに政策分野でも石破さんに対する期待というのは急速にしぼんでいるというふうに思います。
However, as soon as he became the Prime Minister, he withdrew several different statements or policies which he had maintained beforehand, changing policy therefore. Therefore, I think that both the expectations in regards to his policy from now as well has seen a dramatic decrease as a result of this.
そういう中で、我々が真にこの選挙で国民の皆様方に訴えたい、また一緒に考えさせていただきたい、その争点は経済であるというふうに考えています。
Therefore, what it is that we as our party want to be sincerely appealing to the public about in this election and thinking together with the public is the issue of the economy.
日本の経済30年間ご案内のように成長していないと言われていまして、世界の中でもどんどんとこの GDP の値が落ちてきていると、かつては1位2位を争っていましたが、今や5位に来年には5位になるのではないかというふうにも言われています。
It is said that the Japanese economy has had no growth in the past 3 decades, and globally, when we look at, for example, the GDP index as well, while Japan was before competing for the first or second place in regards to this, it's thought that by next year it could even have fallen to the fifth.
一番の問題は経済が成長しない中で、いろいろな外的要因も含めた今物価高が大きく進行しているということにあると思います。
And as to this very significant issue of the lack of economic growth, there are of course various external factors in regards to this, including the issues of cost of living.
賃上げというものがなかなか進まない中で、日本の国民は非常に物価高に苦しんでいる。例えばトマトは今1個300円、レタスは1玉240円という、宝石を買う覚悟をしなければならないほど野菜の高騰も見られます。
And we are also seeing a situation where there is not much progress in increasing wages of the population as well, which is causing the people of Japan to suffer greatly from this increase in the cost of living. For example, now we see prices of a tomato being up to 300 yen or one lettuce 240 yen, which means that people are almost feeling like they're buying gems or jewels when they're going to the shops to buy vegetables.
政府が賃上げしろと企業に言って大企業が賃上げの方向に進み出しているということは事実です。
The government is calling upon companies to increase the wages over and over again, and we are starting to see the situation where large corporations are indeed implementing such an increase.
しかしながら中小零細企業の経営者にお話を聞くと、大企業が賃上げをすることによってそのしわ寄せが中小零細企業に来ている。したがって、中小零細企業が賃上げをするということは非常に難しい状況であるということをお聞きをいたします。
However, when we speak to the owners or the people running our small to mid-sized enterprises and businesses in Japan, we see that as a result of large corporations increasing their wages, it is actually these smaller businesses which are suffering as a result of this, which is making it more and more difficult for them to implement any kind of wage increases within their own businesses.
加えて、防衛費の増強に対する費用を捻出するために個人の所得税、また法人税、タバコ税、こういった税金が増税されようとしています。
And when we look at the issue of the increase in defense spending as well, in order to cover the funds which are required from this, we are seeing an increase in, for example, income tax of private individuals, also corporation tax, and tax on, for example, cigarettes.
そして、子どもに対する支援に関してはサラリーマンの皆さん方が毎月おかけをいただいているこの社会保険料、これに上乗せをして、その上乗せをした分で子どもに対する支援、子育て世帯に対する支援を行うということが決定をいたしております。
In regards to the issue of support for children as well, we are now seeing the situation where the social insurance premiums which are being paid by company employees in Japan, an addition is being made onto this in order to develop or raise the funds to cover different child and family support in Japan as well.
こういう傾向になると、大企業のサラリーマン、少々賃上げがあっても増税やこの社会保険料の増額ということで実際の手取りは増えないと、可処分所得は増えないということになります。
And so with such kind of trends in place at the moment, we are seeing that even for those employees of large corporations who do have some kind of an increase in their wages at the moment, because of increases in tax and social insurance premiums as well. This means that actually the amount of cash in hand they are ending up with, or their disposable income, is not having any kind of increase.
また中小零細企業の働き手サラリーマンの皆さん方は賃上げがないまま負担増だけが進んでいくという、悲惨な状態を迎えており、中小零細企業の働き手からは悲痛な叫びが今我々に届いています。
And for those who are working in small to medium-sized enterprises as well, they are experiencing a situation where there is no actual wage increase for them, yet only the amount of their burden for such taxes and so on is increasing, putting them in very difficult situations, and we're hearing the cries of suffering from such workers.
したがって、今政治に求められているのはやはり労働者の皆さん方、サラリーマンの皆さん方の手取りを増やすということがミッションになっていると思います。
And so now what is being called on politics, what is the mission now, is how to increase the amount of income which actually reaches the hand of the workers or so-called salarymen in Japan.
我々、そこで維新の会、日本維新の会は今回の選挙では3つのことを目標として掲げております。無論、やはり政権をお預かりしなければできないことというのが含まれているということは認識をいたしております。
And so as the Japan Innovation Party, there are 3 specific goals which we are putting forward in this upcoming or current election. Of course, it goes without saying that these are things which could be implemented only if we were in government.
まず1つ目は消費税の減税です。消費税の減税は2% というのを維新の会として打ち出しています。2% 減税すると5兆円の減収になるわけですが、ことさらそれを5兆円という数字が一人歩きをしていますが、実際に5兆円の減収になれば、この5兆円の中から3兆円が消費に回るというデータがあります。
And the first of these is a reduction in consumption tax. Specifically, as a Japan Innovation Party, we pledged for a 2% reduction in consumption tax. This would result in a lower income for the state of 5 trillion yen. However, this number of 5 trillion yen is just being talked about on its own within the reporting. However, we need to have further examination of this. First of all, the fact that there is data which actually shows that this would lead to 3 trillion yen in increased consumption.
この3兆円という数字は日本の GDP に比べると 0.5% ですから、決して小さな数字とは言えないと思います。
And this figure of 3 trillion yen is equivalent to 0.5% of Japan's GDP. Therefore, it cannot be thought of as just a small figure.
そして、2つ目は先ほど申し上げた社会保険料の減額です。
And second is, as referred to previously, a decrease in the amount of the social insurance costs.
社会保険料で、苦しんでいるサラリーマンというのは、今回選挙で、いろんな街頭演説していますが、大多数の方が社会保険料が高すぎるというふうに感じています。
And in regards to this, the number of people who feel a burden as a result of the high social insurance premiums, when I am out on the campaign trail and speaking to people, to the public, many of them, I would say the majority, say that they feel that the social insurance costs are too high.
社会保険料の減額を考える場合に最大のポイントは医療費をいかに圧縮できるかということです。
And when we think about how to achieve a decrease in the social insurance, the biggest factor there is looking at how to also have a reduction in the medical costs within Japan.
日本の医療費は昨年で47兆円に達しようとしています。
And last year, the medical costs for Japan was at 47 trillion Japanese yen.
これから後期高齢者が増えていく、爆発的に増えていく中で、この医療費がどんどんと増大をしていくということが予想されています。
From now, the aged population, and particularly the very aged population, will be increasing in a dramatic way here in Japan, and therefore it can be predicted that this cost will, of course, increase.
したがってこの医療費を圧縮する、要は医療分野の構造的抜本的な大改革をやるということがイコール社会保険料の減額につながっていくということを考えています。
And therefore, looking at how to reduce this as well, this overall expenses of the medical field here in Japan, what is needed is fundamental structural reform of this field within Japan as well. And so looking at how to implement this.
社会保険料が減額されると、それだけ手取りが増えるという、仕組みになっています。
So with a reduction in social insurance will therefore, of course, lead to a higher amount of money which will be in the hand of those employees and workers.
そして3つ目は教育の無償化です。
And the third is making education available free.
この教育の無償化は、私から申し上げるまでもなく、子育て世代の方々の家計費をサポートするということにあります。
And of course, it goes without saying by me that being able to make education free will indeed contribute to supporting the finances of households who are raising children of that age.
私も実は大学生の息子を持つ父親ですが、子供一人であってもこの教育費の大きさは大変なものであって、やはり2人3人と子供を作るのは非常に厳しいなと。実感としてそういうことを感じています。
I myself am also the father to a university student son, and I feel very directly also the enormous expenses and the costs which are involved in the education of even one child. Therefore, when we think about how difficult it is for families with 2 or 3 children, I can understand how difficult a situation, and I directly really understand this very well.
教育の無償化を行って子育て世帯の可処分所得、手取りを増やしていくと。今申し上げたように減税、社会保険料の減額、そして、教育の無償化、この3点セットで、若者世代、現役世代、子育て世代、こういった世代の皆さん方を元気にしていくということが狙いです。
And so looking at how to have less burden on those families who are rearing their children at the moment, what is needed for this is looking at or how this can increase therefore their disposable income and the amount of cash which they have in hand as well. We believe that what is necessary for this is this 3-point step which you have referred to, having lowering of taxes, of social income, and also making education available for free. These are the steps which we think are needed in order to encourage and vitalize the young generation, the child raising generation, and those of working age.
それによって物価高を上回る賃上げ相当の手取りを増やし、経済を成長させ、そして税収を増やすと。増えた税収については高齢者の皆さん方や社会的弱者の皆さん方のために新たな行政サービスを提供していく。これによって、この国内の経済の成長というものを図っていきたい。これが維新の会の考え方です。
Therefore, we believe that by implementing these kind of policies, it will lead to an equivalent of what would be experienced through an increase in wages for this young working generation, which will then in turn contribute to growth of the Japanese economy and also an increase in terms of the income from taxes as well. Therefore, which can be put towards new governmental or administrative services for the elderly or those in other socially vulnerable positions. This is what we need to revitalize and make a robust domestic economy.
我々が他の政党と違うのはですね、この教育の無償化においても実際やってきたという実績があります。
And what differentiates us from other political parties is we have the experience, the track record of having actually implemented these policies, including the free education.
日本維新の会はご案内のように大阪で生まれた政党でありますが、大阪ではすでに地方議員の定数を大幅に削減し、報酬をカットし続け、それによって行財政改革を行って、生み出された財源で、全ての教育を無償にするということにチャレンジをしています。
As was mentioned previously, the Japan Innovation Party was born in Osaka. And in Osaka, we have already implemented a reduction of the number of seats in the prefectural assembly and also the salaries as an overall governance reform within Osaka, using therefore the finances which then are made available as a result of this for taking on the challenge of making all education free.
肝心なポイントはですね、今申し上げたように新たな行政サービスを提供する際に 我々は政治家が自らの身を切る改革をやる。そして、行財政改革を徹底的にやって生み出された財源を新しいチャレンジに使っている、そういうところにあります。
And what is at the core of this point, what is significant here is, as mentioned as well, when we are talking about how to provide new services within society, what is important there is for politicians to take on reform and cuts even of themselves. And therefore, through this kind of thorough reform, using the new finances which are generated to take on new challenges.
一方、政府自民党のこの政治の進め方というのは、先ほども申し上げたように、何か新しいことをやるときには増税をするか、負担を国民に押し付けるか、そういう方向でのやり方をしている、そういう状況だと思います。
However, in contrast to this, the way of doing things of politics of the current LDP is, as mentioned, when they are taking on something new, looking at just increasing taxes and forcing this burden onto the people. This is the kind of trend and situation in place.
私たちはこの選挙においては、この政府自民党の負担増の方向に進む政治を選択されるか、国民がこの増税や負担増を受け入れるということを選択されるか、もしくは私たちが有言実行でやってきたこの政治家側が身を切る改革をやって行財政改革を徹底的に進めて財源を生み出すか、どちらをご選択されますかということを訴えています。
So therefore, in this current election, what is being asked of the people is whether they will accept the kind of politics which is being implemented by the LDP, the government, looking at an increase in the people's burden, looking at accepting this increase in taxes, for example, choosing this kind of politics, or choosing the kind of politics which we are putting forward, which includes doing as we say, as is seen in our track record, having politicians take on the cuts from themselves first, and having thorough reform, which will then generate new finances which can be used for this kind of additional reform as well. This is the question which is being posed to the people.
日本維新の会以外の多くの政党もこの国民の手取りを増やす、可処分所得を増やすということについてはほとんどの政党が訴えをしています。
As well as the Japan Innovation Party, the majority of other political parties are also speaking of how to increase the disposable income of people.
この選挙の結果が日本の今私が申し上げたようなどちらの方向に進んでいくかということを大きく動かしていく、そういう結果になるのではないかというふうに予想をしています。
And I predict that the results of this upcoming election will have a significant impact upon which direction Japan will be headed from now, as previously mentioned.
今終盤の今回の衆議院選挙の各政党の獲得議席数というものが予想また報道をされています。
And now in the final days towards the election, the number of seats which each of the respective parties is aiming to achieve is being reported.
与党がかなり苦戦をしているという報道がありますが、過半数割れということをすでに報道している、報道機関もあります。
And it is currently said that the ruling party will indeed, or is indeed, in a challenging situation in regards to the results of this election, and that it is reported that it is likely that also the majority may be broken.
私はこの政治とお金の問題や今の石破総理のかつてから主張されてこられた政策の中身が大きく変わっているということを鑑みますと、やはり一度過半数割れになってこの与党自民党公明党に国民がノーを突きつける絶好の機会だと思います。
And so when we look at this issue both of the politics and money, and also looking at Prime Minister Ishiba's having significantly changed his policies from what he had been pushing forward before becoming Prime Minister, looking at this, I think that this is a very big opportunity for the people to say no to the LDP and Komeito to break through the current majority situation.
一方、野党側もですね、政策の面においてはかなり大きな幅があります。
However, on the opposition side as well, there is, of course, a great breadth in regards to their policies.
したがって、野党側が一致団結をして、この政権を担うということも非常に難しいのではないかと思います。
Therefore, for the opposition to band together and form one government is something which I also believe would be extremely difficult.
私たち日本維新の会は、これまでもそれぞれの政党に対して、是々非々という立場を取ってまいりました。
So we, as the Japan Innovation Party, until now and continue today to take a position in regards to each party about looking at both their pros and cons, taking on each of their sides.
是々非々の判断材料というのは、やはりその法律、政策、予算が国家、国民のために立つかどうかと、お役に立つかどうかということがポイントです。
And in making a decision in regards to this, in judging this, we're looking at both the laws, politics, and budget, which is being put forward by each of these parties. If this is indeed to the use or to the benefit of the people.
したがって選挙終了後もですね、与党側か野党側かどちらにつくのかという問題ではなしに、それぞれのその政党が今日私が申し上げてきたような大きな方向性、どちらの方向に向かって歩んでいくか、それによってですね、判断をしていくということになると思います。
Therefore, after this upcoming election as well, rather than looking at the issue of whether being part of the ruling or opposition party, I think that we will be looking at each respective party, seeing what position they are taking in regards to the direction which Japan should be following from now, as mentioned before, and making our decision or judgment based on that.
いずれにしてもですね、今回の選挙、自民党が政権に復帰したのは12年前、2012年のことであります。この12年、12という数字はですね、日本では一つのサイクルを示す数字でもあります。
No matter the results of this election, this timing is coming at 12 years since the LDP returned to power in the year 2012. And within Japanese politics, or within Japan, 12 years can be seen as one kind of a cycle.
したがって今回の選挙が、私はこれからの日本の政治、歴史、そういうものに大きな影響を残すというふうに確信をいたしておりますし、我々日本維新の会もそれに参画をしていくということを目標にですね、残り期間頑張っていきたいと思います。
And therefore, I am certain that this election, which will take place from now, will leave a significant impact in Japan's politics and history from now as well. The Japan Innovation Party will be taking part in this, and we will be doing our best towards our goals in the remaining time left. Thank you.
残りが質問ね。はい。よろしいです。
ちょうど時間が来たようでございますので、この後ご参加いただいている皆様方からご質問をお受けしたいと思います。
So it is now time, so I would like to bring to an end my initial remarks, then we will open up for questions from here.
Thank you very much, Bawa-san. I should have mentioned our translator today is Mary Joyce. Obviously, have completed her duties so far, but doing a great job. We are also on YouTube, as I mentioned, and we are receiving inquiries from press watching. So I'm going to start with one of those first. I neglected to mention in my introduction, if you have a cell phone, please turn it off or put it on manner mode. Our first question comes from Andy Sharp from Nikkei Asia, who asked, obviously you were kind of hinting at what is going on. Would your party, Ishinokai, be a more natural fit in a coalition with the LDP or CDP?
本日オンラインで参加している記者もいますので、まず最初にオンラインの質問から入りたいと思います。そして携帯電話の方をまずお聞きください。まず一番最初の質問、日経アジアのアンディ・シャープ記者からの質問なんですけれども、先ほどのスピーチの中でも、少し関連するようなご発言があったんですけれども、連立政権となった場合には維新の会としては自民党もしくは立憲民主党と自然なマッチというのはどちらの政党というふうにお考えでしょうか。
はい、日本維新の会というのは一言で言うと改革保守政党です。 ただ同じ保守政党である自民党、今のような状況では、とても一緒にやっていくということは不可能だと思います。政治とお金の問題を解決することもできない、大きな国の方針についても石破さんが総理になられてからどんどんと方向性変わっていく、国家国民のためになっているかといえばなっていないというふうに思いますので、今の自民党とは一切連携をしていくということはないと思います。
First of all, to put in one word the nature of the Japan Innovation Party, we are a reformist conservative party. While the LDP is also a fellow conservative party, as to whether we could cooperate with them in their current state, in their current situation, I believe that would be completely impossible. It would not be possible to resolve the issues of politics and money which are in place at the moment. Also, we have great concern about the kind of changing of direction which is being seen in the LDP since Mr. Ishiba has taken on the role of Prime Minister. Whether the acts which are being taken now by the LDP are serving in the interests of the people of Japan, we do not believe so. Therefore, to coordinate with the LDP as it is today, it would not be possible.
ただ一方、野党第一党の立憲民主党もですね、おそらく今の報道では議席がかなり増えるというふうに予想されていますが、根本的な政策ですね、国家の基本政策、外交安全保障、エネルギー、憲法、こういった分野については我々と大きく考え方が違います。
However, on the other hand, when it comes to the Constitutional Democratic Party, the largest opposition party, which is reported to expect to achieve an increase, a great increase in the number of seats in this election, when we look at the fundamental policies, the basic state policies of each of the parties, whether it comes to diplomacy, security, energy, or the Constitution, there is completely a huge difference in the policies of both of our parties.
したがって、立憲民主党とこのパートナーになっていくということも今の段階では非常に厳しいと。基本的に我々は単純な権力闘争に参加をするのではなしに、やはり国家国民のためになることはどういうことかと、どういう政策なのか、そういうことを考えながらこの政治活動をやっていきたいというふうに思います。
Therefore, I believe, or I feel that it would be extremely difficult for us to partner also with the CDP in its current situation as well. Basically, as the Japan Innovation Party, rather than participating in any kind of simple power struggle, rather than this, we are looking at questions such as what is indeed for the benefit or the sake of the people, what kind of policy is for the people, and we are making our political actions based on these questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now open the floor to our working press today. We don't have so much time, so please limit yourself to one question. Identify your name and your affiliation. We have more online questions, so we will kind of go back and forth between that. And just to follow up, I would like to ask, this is on behalf of one of the online questioners, Eric Johnson of Japan Times. Some critics of your party say that it's the de facto Osaka chapter of the LDP, that there's actually little difference between the LDP and your national policies. Where do you see yourself in specific differing with the LDP? You mentioned that in its current shape you couldn't form a coalition with them. What policies of theirs are really something you reject, like the other opposition party?
はい、次もまた一つオンラインの質問で、ジャパンタイムズのエリック・ジョンソン記者からの質問です。少しまとめますが、ある維新の会を批判している方の中では、維新の会は自民党の大阪支部であるというような発言をする方もいます。で、大きく特にその国の政策のレベルと自民党、そして維新の会の政策に大きな違いがないというような声もあるんですけれども、もし可能であれば具体的に政策の面で、例えば外交や防衛などの政策で維新の会と自民党が根本的に違う点をもし教えていただければと思います。先ほど発言の中で今の自民党とパートナーになることは考えられない、不可能であるというご発言があったんですけれども、今の自民党に特にどのようなことで問題がある、どのような政策を否定するのでしょうか。
外交防衛については 大きく違うという部分はないと思います。我々も日米同盟を基軸にし、そして、あらゆる国際社会と円滑な関係を結んでいくということはですね、全く同じであります。ただ防衛の分野においては、一昨年、岸田前総理が防衛3文書に対する考え方というのを発表されましたが、唯一違うといいますか、少し差があるなというのは、我々は積極防衛というものをもう少し大きくしていかなければならないというふうに考えています。実際にミサイルや核爆弾が発射された後ですね、どこまでこのプロテクトできるかというのは、今の日本の防衛力では非常に疑問ですから、そういったプロテクトをするという観点での防衛力の向上、こういうものはもっと進めていかなければならないというふうに思っています。自民党と維新の会の大きな違いは、やはり改革をやるかやらないかだと思うんですね。この自民党は、前例慣例に基づいて政治をやっていく。簡単に言えばですね、皆さん方のお家がもう基礎がガタガタになって、天井に穴が開いて、そして床も抜けて柱は倒れかけていると。それが今の日本という姿だと思いますが、自民党はそのつっかえ棒をしたり、ビニールシート、ブルーシートをかけたりですね、そういうことで何とかしのいでいこうという考え方です。で、我々は基礎がダメなんだからもう一度基礎をやり替えて新しいお家を建てましょうと。そこも決定的に違う部分だと思います。
In regards to diplomatic or defense policy, I would not say there is a significant difference between the LDP and our Japan Innovation Party. We also hold the same policy of upholding the alliance with the United States as the center of our policy, also looking at how to ensure smooth cooperation or relationships with the international community. So this is the same. However, when it comes to defense, I think that the one difference could be looking at the basic defense policy, which was introduced or announced by Mr. Kishida the year before last. For us, we see the need to expand even further Japan's active defense capability. We are looking at, for example, how Japan could protect itself in the case of the launch of a missile or a nuclear weapon, for example. It would be questionable about what level of capacity Japan would have in its current defense situation in regards to these kinds of issues as well. Therefore, looking at how to enhance Japan's defense capability in regards to particularly protection of the country. I think that the largest difference, however, between the LDP and the JIP is whether we are taking on or implementing reform or not. If we were looking at the LDP, they are really just looking at basing everything that they are doing on what has been done before, what is already in place. If we were to take the example of Japan as a home, for example, we could say that we'd be looking at a situation where the foundations of the house are shaky, where there are holes in the roof, where the floor is falling through. This is the situation that Japan is in today. However, what the LDP is trying to do in regards to this is just putting up blue plastic sheets to cover up the holes, or putting up small plastic poles to reinforce where the pillars are completely breaking through. However, what our position as Nippon Ishin would be, rather, is that the foundations themselves, if they are indeed not working anymore, if they are falling through, we need to completely rebuild the whole house to build a new house. This is the difference between our two parties.
Okay.